All right. Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Amuna, and I pray everybody is doing well. All right. Greetings and welcome back once again. This is Amuna, and I pray everybody is doing well. I'm tapping in on a Wednesday night. We're going to take it easy today. It's going to be an open mic. Again, like I said, the last two videos on this topic was kind of just giving not only just a foundation of colorism in the Caribbean, but also giving us a lead up. Welcome to those who just joined us to the Marcus Garvey conversation, because this conversation is very much interwoven into the Garvey movement, right? And so it is important. But I realized that many years ago, in many different capacities, I've spoken on this topic. I'm like, wait a minute. I even remember having a discussion with a young woman who called herself the dark skinned advocate. I believe that's what she called herself, right? So I've been having this conversation for a while. And, again, it's important because it's touching on people's experiences. I'm going to just read a little bit about colorism because I like to define words. And then, again, like I said, we're going to open the mic after I do a little mini presentation about the fact that it's not only just in the Caribbean. I've been focusing on the Caribbean, but it's widespread. You know what I mean? It is widespread. It's one of the vestiges of colonialism and beyond, right? So colorism is the practice of favoring light skin over dark skin. Like, in a nutshell, it wouldn't have any bearing if it didn't come with some type of uh, benefit, right? If we're looking at what it is, somebody saying this person is favored, that means that they have a benefit over the other person. And why I've experienced issues in this section is because people find it hard to admit the truth. Like, if somebody's being favored for something, calling it out kind of makes them want, like, oh no, that's not what's going on. You know what I mean? But that's exactly what's going on. The preference for lighter skin can be seen within any racial or ethnic background. I'm reading from Very Well Mind right now. They're saying within any, it's within many, it's within Asian, Southeast Asian, Indian, it's on the African continent, it's in the Caribbean, it's in America. And then the next thing we have to ask is why? Could this solely be blamed on colonization, or was this something that existed prior? These are all the questions that, we to put it out there, to say, have you been personally affected by it? Did you lose a job because of your skin complexion? Did you lose a relationship? Were you treated badly in the home? Because those psychological effects, those socioeconomic effects are what you see in this time, people taking the handle and pushing back and saying, they have the ability and the right to brighten their skin, to bleach their skin. And if by doing so, that means that they're going to have more opportunities and get the girl that they want or get the man that they want. There has to be real payoff for someone to want to do this, right? Whether it is how society sees us, how we see ourselves, all of this stuff is important as we're having this conversation, right? I think it was brought up because the question was, is this in Bob Marley's story? And colorism is all in the story. It's all in the story. Rita brings it up very early in the conversation about what they called her in school, Blackie Tutus. She brings it up very early, and Sadella brings it up early in the conversation about wondering what her young straight-nosed son was going to look like. The brown boy. So this is all throughout the story that we just finished, which was the Bob and Rita story, right? And I think this is why, many people is like, we should talk about it, and I think we should. I'm Artist says it's so true. I'm lighter than the rest of my siblings, and I feel and see the difference. And, children growing up, we have to show them a difference, because if we don't treat one better or treat one worse, even though they'll say, oh, the skin is different. That it doesn't mean anything until we, the people, attach value to it, right? I think there's an educator. Her name is Jane Elliott. Greetings and welcome to those who just joined us. And she did a kind of experiment, and it's all over the internet. You've probably seen it, with the brown eyes and green eyes kind of experiment to show that it can be anything. In this dispensation, in this period of time, the people are using skin color. In another period of time, it could be anything, because humans are very interesting. Whatever can be used to polarize the people, that's what's going to be used. And in this particular case, it comes with darker skin means, and then we fill in the blank. Lighter skin means XYZ, and then we fill in the blank. I'm gonna play a little video real quick. I did a little compilation. I sourced the people on TikTok because people are talking about it. Younger generation, older generation. Yes, I agree. They're messing with people's mind to say it automatically means there's some type of intrinsic value because of what your external looks like. And we as people know that's not necessarily true. But in certain places, even for European women, I found bleaching cream articles or advertisements in the Gleaner from like 1910. I was saving that for the Garvey conversation. But it's to say, in a certain time period where femininity was valued and women being in the house was valued, then guess what? The whiter her skin was, that means the more delicate she was. That means the less that she engaged in hard labor, right? As opposed to the person whose skin may be darkened by the sun. It has a connotation. Well, oh, you're working class, or you're poor, or you're this, or you're that. And so it's really about perception and humanity and the way we choose to classify one another and whatever value we ascribe to what it is that we can physically see. It's humans being humans doing interestingly human things. But I'm gonna run this really quickly because it's a compilation of people sharing some of their experiences with colorism. So stand by. I want you to be lighter than me. I love African American women, but I just don't like my skin complexion. Okay. Well, I like your skin complexion. I just said I don't like women with my complexion. I like light-skinned women. I want you to be lighter than me. I love African American women, but I just don't like my skin complexion. Okay. Well, I like your skin complexion. We too gutter. Black people, my complexion, we too gutter. Light-skinned women, they more sensitive, you know? There's some dark-skinned women out here sensitive. No, they too tough. Light-skinned women, we could break them down more easy, you know what I'm saying? Okay. Yeah. That's it. We shout out to Chinese TV, already know floor. Wait, pause. You saw he just gave the rationale, and I what I shouldn't have done is put it all in one clip, because for some reason when I do that and play it from here, then it doesn't allow me to oh, y'all couldn't see it. Hold on, pause. It doesn't allow me to pause it along the way. So let me cue it up again. And this is a young man. I believe he's a rapper, artist, and he's giving the rationale. Sometimes we get offended by what somebody is saying, but it's beneficial for us to listen to why they're saying. Greetings and welcome, everybody. I'm here, y'all. I'm in my form today, but I was prepping up. So my apologies for that. Let me go ahead and cue this up again. He's saying why? Because dark-skinned women are too hard, and that thought process comes from even that she's not mixed, she's not watered down. The European is the one who propagated that thought, that the closer you are to the European, the more you are mixed. That means the more refined you are, the more delicate you are, the more genteel you are. And the further you are away from them is the more savage you are, right? And this has been internalized. So I'll play that again. I want you to be lighter than me. I love African American women, but I just don't like my skin complexion. Okay. Well, I like your skin complexion. I just said I don't like women with my complexion. I like light-skinned women. I want you to be lighter than me. I love African American women, but I just don't like my skin complexion. Okay. Well, I like your skin complexion. We too gutter. Black people, my complexion, we too gutter. Light-skinned women, they more sensitive, you know? There's some dark-skinned women out here sensitive. No, they too tough. Light-skinned women, we could break them down more easy, you know what I'm saying? Okay. Yeah. That's it. We shout out to Chinese TV, already know floor.
But that's not only black thing, because Dominicans too. I have a sister probably darker than you, and her dad's family came to my house to see if she was getting lighter, and she's dark like y'all. My dad is like y'all, and they will come to the house to see if she was getting lighter, and they will say it like, "Oh, she's getting lighter. Oh, she's getting lighter."
Yeah, Dominicans.
So it's not
they're not just Dominicans, but in the Hispanic culture, colorism is very.
Yes. People don't speak about that.
Black guys don't even like.
Why Haiti's in the situation that we're in right now? What's wrong with being dark skinned? We're in 2024. Like, this whole colorism has to stop. You know, I was just going with the trends, you know, and to get a comment like this, it's like, it shows why Haiti's in the situation that we're in right now. You know, it's like with mentality like this, and mentality like this is instilled into us since we're little. Because I remember just being a kid and some elders would be like, hey, don't stay in the sun too long because you will get darker. But what's wrong with being darker? If the white folks are trying to get tans, they're coming to our countries to get tan while we're running away from the sun. We're afraid of the sun. Oh, we don't want to get darker. People are bleaching because they hate their skin. They really thought us to hate ourselves, man. You know, it's like, I'm reading the comment, I'm like, damn. And the sad part,
the type of remarks that he was hearing, which was basically racism within the Caribbean.
Growing up, did your grandparents or parents ever say to you?
So colorism within the Caribbean community is something that we need to discuss. Now, if you did not check out what that creator said, he basically was talking about him growing up and the type of remarks that he was hearing, which was basically based off of colorism and futurism and all of that. I feel like colorism overall is a topic within the Black diaspora that people do not want to talk about, but especially in the Caribbean community. I've seen a lot of Caribbeans like to talk about classism more than colorism, but trust me, classism and colorism is very rampant. It's honestly to the point where if you do not have the typical Black African look and you look mixed up with like other different races, you're gonna get most likely preferential treatment.
One of the best indicators of colorism globally is the percentage of people within that community that engages in skin bleaching. And we know we're thinking diasporic wide that we haven't really addressed. Colorism is something diasporic wide that we haven't really addressed, but because I'm Jamaican, I'm gonna speak about it in a Jamaican context. One of the best indicators of colorism globally is the percentage of people within that community that engages in skin bleaching. And we know where Jamaica is on that. The mistake we make in this approach is starting with our personal opinions on bleaching. You see, human beings modify themselves based on messages being transmitted within that society. And whether you want to believe it or not, there are perceived and actual advantages of being skinned in Jamaica. Let's stop right just again for reminding you, because someone with Toban, it's not about your personal opinion on bleaching, it's the message that is being sent. Though we are majority black and ugly as a concept is as Jamaican as Aki and Sawfish, and that is sad. And if you're brown and pretty and go missing, your post will get shared more than somebody with a darker complexion. Now, this post isn't for your reductive opinion on what you think about skin complexion. It's to engage in a conversation about changing the message. Colorism is something that's...
Look, I mean, even in my dance lessons when I was a kid, I was doing Bharatanatyam. It's me as a kid, and this is also me as a kid, just in the sun more. But I know that little Anita back then was very embarrassed about being dark in the summer. Like, I initially obviously didn't care because I loved to run around in the sun and I didn't care about getting dark, blah, blah, blah. But my parents instilled that this wasn't a good look. I mean, even in my dad.
So there we have the compilation for those who just joined us. And so many people on the clips were like, we're not talking about it. So here we are talking about it, okay? Here we are having the conversation because as one of the creators said, it's either perceived or real advantages. Another thing that stuck out to me is the fact that this has to be passed down. This conversation oftentimes takes place in the home. Surprise, surprise. It takes place in the community. These comments are coming from people you may know, people you may respect, people who are in charge of growing and shaping your young mind, right? And you're hearing them say things that are alarming, like, wait a minute, hold on. But they're not necessarily giving you context, but these type of discriminatory practices that people are participating in within their own self. This is not like racism coming from the outside. This is something on the internal that is used to kind of put people where we want them to be. And again, it's something that has been traveling down the line. It's still very much to the forefront. Bleaching is not just a thing that's happening in Jamaica. It's happening all over. It's happening in India. It's happening in Europe. Well, not so much Europe. It's happening in Asia. It's happening in Africa. Big, big, big time. Let me go to the comment section here. Bless up and welcome those who have just joined us. I'm going to share the link. I'm going to open it up for conversations. I'm going to read what was said. I was trying to find the link for when Esther Anderson basically said that because Bob Marley was half white, he was more marketable. She said that on the documentary. I just didn't have time. He was more marketable because he was half white. And that made him more palatable to those, more so than a Bunny Wailer, more so than a Peter Tosh. And so them going towards him and kind of pushing him to the forefront was with intention because of how he appeared. Isn't that curious? So the question of whether or not colorism played a role, it's a good possibility. There was something that I was going to read here. There was something that I was going to read, but I think I'm going to go to the brown paper bag test that was happening in America, because when we read about Marcus, Marcus is going to be coming to America. How many people have heard about or remember learning about the brown paper bag test? Jillian says, when I was growing up, and this is interactive. This is why it's an open mic. I'm not going to do too much reading today. I just wanted to provide a space if people wanted to come up and share their thoughts and their experience with it, because it has real time effect. It has emotional. It affects us emotionally, psychologically. If this was going on in the household, or if it wasn't going on in the household, but it was going on outside of the household. Jillian says, when I was growing up, I wish I was dark skinned because my sister, who was dark, got all the friends and the boyfriends. Interesting. Blessings to those who have just joined us. Interesting perspective. So again, that's all about perception, right? We have artists who have joined us. I'm going to bring you up now. Welcome to the conversation.
Hi, how are you? Good evening. Totally
Good.
different subject. Love it.
Yeah. It was requested, so here we are.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Just going back from the book that you were started reading about the why Jamaica didn't take on, we still stake at the numbers we stake on because they couldn't overthrow us. Just a joke about it. Just said white people couldn't stay away from the black girls. That's that they couldn't, and they still can't to this day. So that didn't change. But just speaking on the topic of today too, my great grandmother is from Scotland. She
Okay.
married the darkest man that you could find in Jamaica.
Oh wow.
And and her kids, of course, black, white, well, not light black, like my complexion.
Right.
And my grandmother, her daughter, was the light one. And look at him, black picnic. Like I came out light. She loved me. My brother was dark, and we're from the same father, which is her son, who is light. But my dad always have darker women. And I came out light. He came out dark. And everybody's like, she didn't like him because he was dark. And then I was light. And so this is what I hear when I was a kid. Didn't hear when I was a kid, but when I grew up, because you don't know the difference, but you see it and you see the treatment. And then when my dad was no longer with my mom, he had another dark woman, and she had kids, multiple kids, and they were darker, and they didn't like them.
Wow.
They didn't like them. She didn't like them because they were darker, and it was a fight because even my grandmother didn't like my mother because she was dark. But you have to deal with it. And so they did. Until this day, I'm looking at my sister and I'm like, my sisters are so beautiful. They
Mm.
always look at me like, and oh, like my older sister, like which is I would be, and they're like, oh, like they call me Tullus. That's just a Jamaican thing. So I'm
Mm.
just gonna say, Tullus, my sister, look at my sister, my pretty sister. And
Mm.
that's, I think that was only because of the color, maybe because I was older too.
Mm-hmm.
Until this day, they always thought everybody would say that she's more beautiful, but I'm not more beautiful than my sisters. My sisters are beautiful. They're
Wow.
dark. I look at them now, I'm like, when I see them, they're like so beautiful. And I'm thinking, why is people telling me that I'm beautiful? What about them? They are beautiful.
Mm.
But in this day and time, people do know, yeah, of course, they're beautiful. When
Right.
I go out with them and we're together and they're like, oh, we're all sisters. And they look at me like, she's your sister too? It's like, yeah, I'm the
What?
oldest. And we all turn on them like, what? Because we're on one
What?
accord. We're on one accord. I said, we're
Right.
not stepsisters, we're sisters. So anywhere we
Right.
go, you can't pick on me and not picking them and like, oh, you light skin, you're going here. No, we don't play that game. We
Wow.
said we're not going to bring it down in this generation. And even though you can't stop it, it happens. But we know where we stand. And we understand this is coming from old culture, brought down with you're not supposed to mingle with the, with the black kids. You can't play with them. That's how you're told.
Mm.
Because coming over from Europe, you're not supposed to, but they got their hands in the cookie jar anyway. And but they still have the mentality of saying that, but they're not doing what they're saying.
So wait, the grandmother from Scotland who married the dark melanated man, she's the one who didn't like the her dark grandchildren?
Well, she didn't like the dark grandchildren either. Yeah, I was told. And she had, right, exactly. She had sons
I'm
that are
like,
dark.
what?
She only had one daughter, and the one daughter was my grandmother, was the lightest. All
Hmm.
the other boys that she had, I think she had like four boys, they're the lightest.
Mm.
But that's how we were told. So I didn't know that if she didn't like them, but she
Mm-hmm.
did marry a darker man. But
Mm.
and that's what I'm saying. It's like you're told not to do something, but your action doesn't line up with the word that you're doing.
Right.
And so with my grandmother now, her daughter, she the same way too. Anybody, because we own like in Jamaica, we own a whole street, right?
Mm.
And so everything was pieced up, and that's how they were because they were European. So they had a whole lane to themselves. So
Okay.
all their generation, all their kids were given a plot. And so we
Okay.
lived on the same road. So when we start renting out to other people come in there, no one the black people coming. No, sorry, I sound like my grandmother. Okay.
No, go
No
on
black
talk. Go on
person
talk
coming in
because
there.
that we need to be honest about how it sounds because that's
Yeah.
exactly
I,
there's a mhm.
and cuss them out, and you're renting. These people are renting, or her brother who would rent their property or sell it to somebody else, or have somebody live on the property. To my black people, I come down here. That's how they talk. That's how they behave.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I mean, I'm used to it. We see it, and sometimes they bypass us because if I'm light, but if it's a darker person, then you see the difference. You
Right.
definitely see the difference and hear the way they talk, and they think they're talking to somebody who's okay with it, but then we tell them we're not okay with it,
Right.
because in your family there's different levels of that. And it's the same thing with the Chinese in Jamaica. My ex-husband is mother is full Chinese,
Hmm.
and she married a black man. And so it does start, oh, her mother's, he's too dark, and it whole starts, and it's a whole it
It's a
transcends.
cycle. It's a
Yeah,
cycle which doesn't make sense that the colorist people are the people who married the darker people. So make
you're
it make
getting your hands
sense.
in the cookie jar, but then you're
Right.
still arguing about they're
Right.
too dark and too many black people around you, and you're the
So
one that's stirring the pot.
so for them, what is the connotation? Because that doesn't determine what type of person the person is, their complexion or hue. So in your experience historically, what does it mean? What does it translate? That they're gonna steal from you, or they're gonna rob you, or they're gonna, like, what do you think that someone darker is gonna do that the lighter person is not gonna do?
Exactly. And until you know them, and they don't give them the opportunity to get to know them, to show
Right.
that this person is not going to harm you, this
Right.
person on this side may rather harm you, and you don't know that,
Mm.
than the dark person. And it's so funny, the same, even in saying that, the same dark person that my grandmother, not my great grand, but my grandmother didn't like, they're the one that took care of her in her later days. They're the one that came over and changed her, came over and make sure things are happening, nursed her. Those people that she usually cursed out are the ones that came over and took care of her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's almost like you're repeating something. You don't know why you're repeating it. And that's why we
Correct.
say lack of knowledge and how you're taught and why are you taught this way. We never have to question, why did you say this, mom? Why is it that you
Right.
say that? You
Right.
just keep putting the pot cover over the pot with the chicken foot hanging out because that's what mommy did.
Not the hanging out chicken foot.
You just following the pattern, but never ask the question of why do I do these things?
Right. And that's what we need to do. And that's what this conversation is about, is disrupting the narrative. Why are you saying? Because people, like you said, as long as they think you're going along with it, they don't feel called out. But when you stop and say, wait, why did you just say that? Like, where are you getting that from? Where are you, oh, I don't know. I just heard it. Oh, okay. So you're repeating falsehoods. You know what I mean? It
Just like
doesn't
the guy did in the basketball game, that rapper you talked about.
right.
I just think he's talking stupid because he doesn't understand who he is. Lack of knowledge. He doesn't even know who he is. He doesn't know that he's a king, and he come from lineage of kings.
But
He
did you
doesn't
hear
know
what he
that.
said? He said he thinks that the black woman is too tough and that the lighter skinned woman is more able to be manipulated. That's what he said. I was like, did he just say what I thought he
So he
said?
calling us stupid,
Yes, pretty much. And that's the other part of this colorism conversation,
and it has
is
nothing to
that
do with color.
it doesn't have anything to do with color. And that's the other thing. I've seen many people on one side say that the person on the other side doesn't have the right to talk because they don't experience it. But that's not true. There are assumptions made of people on the other side, right? And in America, I did a study before, and the video is up about colorism here and how the yellow girl, or the yellow gal, they call them here, is thought to be loose. She wasn't a field worker, she was a sex worker. She was one that's in the house, right? So the assumption is if you're this, that means that you can make certain advancements. So they do
Right.
have colorism, but it's on the other end of the spectrum. And I think just disregarding each person's experience is not getting us to where it is that we need to be
Exactly. Like in
as a
the slave
people.
house, they make if you sleep with your workers, they're gonna have licensed kids, and they put them in the house
Right,
closer to work with your kids, and you feel like that's promotion, and they
right.
feel like you're being treated better. But when you're in the house, guess what? They're still trying to hurt you,
Abuse,
but you don't know. On
abuse.
the outside, you're just thinking what you're thinking, but inside, you're just getting like maybe even worse.
And some of the people, some of the narratives I've read, some of the people in the house envied the people outside the house because they're like,
Exactly.
at least you're not up under the nose of the colony. Like, at least you're not here because your
Right.
every move is being monitored when
Mm-hmm.
you're inside the house. So again,
That's right. And you're not
the
giving to everybody to sleep with either.
that part right there. Thank you so much, artist. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and your experience. I'm going to share the link as well. For those who just joined us, we're having a very interesting conversation. It's needed because if in order to facilitate healing, again, we saw it in the book with Rita. She had this consciousness that she was being treated different because of how she looked. If you listen to Beverly Kelso interview, actually, I listened to it on the So Much Things to Say right now, Roger Steffens. I'm listening to the audiobook, and then she gives this account of what she remembers when they met Rita, and that they were calling her, the boys in the group, we know who the boys are, were calling her black monkey and this and that and ugly and all of those things, right? So that's not the story Rita gives us, but that's the story that Beverly Kelso is currently giving us, who's right now, she's being celebrated as the living Whaler, and you can see right now she's all over YouTube. And so if you listen to the story about her, she gives a different story. Again, it's not something that just came on the scene, but it's something that doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon because people are still trying to augment their physical appearances and their reality to be someone else in hopes that they will get some type of benefits from it. You heard about the brand? Yes, I'm gonna read a little bit about the brown paper bag test because this would be around the time that Marcus Garvey is early 20th century, early 1900s, right? So we're gonna read a little bit about that because again, this is the context where he starts beefing with W.E.B. Du Bois, and I don't want to misquote Du Bois, but he's on record of saying that he's short, black, and what did he say about Marcus Garvey? Some very disparaging remarks. Okay, it gets really mudslingy in this conversation. Welcome to the conversation, Dr. Charles. So it's still centered around this colorism. They were having that discussion then. Actually, let me pull up what W.E.B. Du Bois said about Marcus Garvey. Hold on. I had pulled it up the other day. I think he called him a little fat black man, ugly, but with intelligent eyes and a big head. That's what they said. That's what was said that he said of uh, Marcus Garvey. That he called him a little fat black man, ugly, but with intelligent eyes and a big head. And then Marcus kind of retorts that and says that Du Bois looks like mixed up, basically. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. I want to get his actual quote. So this conversation is not new. Even Garvey found himself in this space where he's mudslinging to a certain degree. How many people read that or heard of that conversation that's happening between these two? Hold on. Yeah, he called him that. So he's using his color disparagingly. And then Marcus Garvey calls he called him like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Again, nothing that shows that we are moving in the right direction. I'm going to have to pull that up. I'm going to have to pull it up in a second. But yes, again, it's not a new conversation and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. So what do we do about it? How do we break the narrative? I think I'm grateful that that conversation wasn't one that I grew up with, right? That we weren't like classified as the color of your skin. I think that's kind of where it starts. Instead of calling the child their name, the brown one, the black one. No, bro. What are you looking at? A puppy, a litter of puppies? They have names. Call the children their names. Like, don't. And that even starts the division amongst the children. If you have children or if you're in a space where you're around children, calling children by these descriptive terms as opposed to their name begins this internal dialogue of, oh, this one is better. Oh, this one got an extra candy. Oh, you seem to hug this one more than you do me. It kind of goes in that direction because the prejudice already exists within the adult, right? Let me go through some of these comments. Yes, Rhonda says she remembers that not so nice conversation. Yeah, that conversation I was like, oh my goodness, clutch my pearls. What was going on? Why were y'all beefing? Many people take dark skin as an insult. And that's that's because it has been used pejoratively. Like, calling people out of their name because of your complexion, and peering, black and brown and white, and when you put those, you're pairing these together. So now when you say one, it automatically manifests in the mind of the person, even though on a subconscious level. Why? Because this is after time, this association comes in the mind of the people. So sad that they divide and conquer the people. Don't even realize how it has gone down. Lesmar, welcome to the conversation, into the subconscious. And it's something that as we get ready to, or we are actively investing in the next generation, is something that you have to be cognitive of. Like, even if it's cultural, it's not cool. You know what I mean? Sometimes white light people choose darker partners as an act of rebellion. I agree. But the colorist socialization runs deep. In JA, you get better. What's this here? Uppity by skin color. Interesting. And that's kind of what we were talking about, how it represents itself in different places. In South America, there's a conversation. If you look about racism in South America or colorism in South America, it's to lighten the race, So because you have people as dark and darker than I am. But again, in South America, if you bring a certain person home, it doesn't matter if they are, and not all countries, but in some, it doesn't matter how good of a person they are. And that to me is troubling. You don't care about the person, the content of the person, what kind of character this person is. The only thing you're looking at is the superficial tone of their skin. Bob Marley sings the Haile Selassie lyrics of until the color of a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of his eyes. It's going to be war. It's going to be contention. It's going to be back and forth. Why? Because you're trying to put somebody down because they physically appear differently. And the sad part is that now it's not necessarily done from outside, although it is. still being done. Now it's a self-fulfilling prophecy where people are doing it to themselves. There was also the little doll test that happened a few decades ago, where they put the little doll on the table and then asked the child to pick which doll they like, right? And so you see what the child, the melanated child, by the way, gravitated towards. And it's often because of what is being depicted in media. This is why imagery is important. Media is important, right? You see later on, even Disney start trying to come and make the characters look a different way or give them a little ethnicity. And you saw what happened when they tried to make Little Mermaid melanated the other day in their live action. It was a whole like, oh no, you can't make Little Mermaid melanated. So even beyond racism, like I said, this is problematic, and it's definitely something that we can't afford to sweep under the rug or invalidate each other, because that does not build or heal anything. Let's see here. I'm going to read a little bit about the brown paper bag test, just for context. Like says, I'm glad I was taught to love and understand people by character and not color. Exactly. You don't know what the person is. You know what I mean? You just saw a person and you're like, oh, that to me, light skin is relative. Some people that are considered light are dark to others. This is also true. I live to see the last pure white person in my own family, and it all means nothing. This is also true. Because it's relative, depending on where you are, right? In India, like again, you will see some colorism even there. So we tend to think like, oh, it's only happening in our corner of the world. It's happening all over the world. Dark-skinned men are fetishized by some white women, but then they turn around and don't like their dark-skinned children or grandchildren. And again, this is unfortunate, because this is, again, causing more harm, more confusion, more pain in the world, right? More pain in the world. And again, this pain that we read about Nesta, he experienced. He doesn't fit in over here, and he doesn't fit over there. That's why I said, me not for the black man or for the white man, because he's not fitting in any one of these categories. He's too brown for over here and too light for over here, right? And that's kind of what happens with a lot of people who their nationalities are split in this way, and the people on both sides can't find a way to meet in the middle, right? Naja says dark-skinned women are seen as rough attitude, but let them be lighter than it's considered spicy and firecracker. And that is this is where you see something with one set of people and it's frowned upon, one ethnic group, and then another ethnic group, it is something that is celebrated. So what Naja's saying is something that we see in society, and mostly the melanated woman, the one who's closer to her natural self, to me, based on the studies, is one who is not easily beguiled. When you think about the person who you can manipulate, the person who you can cajole, the person who you can control, it has to do with how susceptible you are to assimilating into my culture and abandoning yourself. So when I see you reverting back to who you are, that means that the control system is not necessarily in play as it would normally be. So if we flip it on its head and really look at that, it's a psychological game. This is why when you see Black is Beautiful came in the 70s, and you see young, gifted, and black, when you see all of this stuff and you seeing Black power conversation coming on, and you seeing take off the straightening here and give back your afro and embrace your skin, this is the context by which even the Bob and Rita story is taking place, right? And this is what is making Rita be drawn towards Rastafari, as she said, because this is saying that you no longer have to hide yourself under something that is not even you. You can now embrace yourself. And when you're your true authentic self, then you can vibrate in your true power and purpose. If we are not our true authentic selves, whatever we are manifested in the earth to be, if we're not in tune and in our true authentic self, then we're not able to reach and truly fulfill our purpose in the way that we would if we were to embrace who we are, right? So that not embracing who you are is part of weakening your spiritual immunity. Naja says, I don't know about anyone else, but I appreciate my mom for instilling love in me. The skin I'm in, I wouldn't want it no other way. I agree. This is what I'm saying. I personally did not grow up with it. I saw it around, but I didn't grow up with it because we were who we were. You know what I mean? You also saw this conversation with India Irie when she first came out, and Alicia Keys. This was this conversation. Once again, that's happening. Two equally talented people, but one fits the aesthetic, so they get all the Grammys, and the other one has to go and sing brown skin. I love my brown skin, because the thought is that maybe it is my naturalness and my connection with who I am authentically that scares you, right? Because what are you really thinking in there? You know what I mean? What's going on in there? How can I get in there and control the narrative? For those who have just joined us, welcome to the conversation. If you would like to share your experience, I'm not going to stay long today. Feel free to do so. I'm going to read a little bit of the brown paper bag test just to show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. I broke it as my child started school. He was being asked his ethnicity. Then he came hike and asked if he was mixed at school. I told him, you see us and what we look like, but we are Black. Yeah, and then that's another thing too. Even beyond, people outside try to put you in boxes. Every time I go outside, what are you? You give an answer, not satisfactory. Where are you from? You give an answer, not satisfactory. It's like it's still searching, scanning, so that you can put the person in a box, right? Humans are interested in that way. Where are you from? You give an answer. No, I don't like that answer. Where are your people from? I'm like, what? Are you well? You know what I mean? Monique says, do you think Rita and Sedella passed down her colorism insecurities to her children and grandchildren? There may be, again, we are all at risk of inheriting intentionally or unintentionally the issues that our foreparents wrestled with, right? And so it's a possibility. I haven't really gone all into the grandchildren, contrary to popular belief, or the children really. This is the first time I went deep into Bob and Rita, to tell you the truth, when I read these books. But you can definitely see to a certain degree that it may have played a role in how they're presenting in today's space and time. Dr. Charles says, my in-was used to say about me, she Black but she pretty. People. Again, the clip that I showed, it was that pairing and association, Black and supposedly ugly. Who's saying this? From what perspective are we repeating these narratives? Did we look at ourselves when we're on the continent and be like, oh, Black and ugly? Absolutely not. Someone outside. There is this guy, Thomas Jefferson, just for example, okay? This guy, hold on, guys. I'm going to have to, this guy here, where is he? Guy, where you there? Oh, where you gone? All right, hold on. This guy here, he goes in depth. Enough to wait for me to find him. Oh, yeah, hide. He must be hide. Him know why I'm call him out. Give me a second. Him hide. Him know why I'm call him out. When gone? We must move him. This guy goes in depth about Black people and how they're so different and how you don't need sleep and because how you don't feel pain. And so it's not only just about skin stereotypes. It's all of these other stereotypes that were fabricated to a certain degree to justify certain behavior. You understand what I'm saying? So some of them is people internally doing it, especially colorism in the diaspora. It was first outward and then it was internalized, because even when speaking to enslaved peoples, these terms were used as a pejorative means to degrade you. Come here, you such and such and such and such. And then you hear that, the people heard that, and then they began referring to one another in the same way. I can't find Mr. Thomas right now. He might hide back there. But yeah, definitely it's something that we can't pretend that it's not there. Like some stars, you see them when they first came. For instance, I did a video, I think Little Kim was in the video, one of the rappers. When she first came, she had a certain complexion, and now it's evident she no longer looks the way she looked when she first came, because in the industry you see a lot of people have to slim their nose or do some contouring makeup or brighten their skin or overexpose the flash. Even the tennis player Venus. So just because you have money and you're melanated doesn't mean say you're outside of the grass of this thought process. If this, then you would be. You really have to be grounded and love yourself for who you are to be able to say no. There's no need for me to do that, right? Because there's a lot of pushing coming from all angles. Jenny says that is where skin bleaching comes into play. Beautiful dark-skinned people paying hundreds of dollars to harm themselves. Yeah. And again, like I said, some of this skin bleaching in the beginning, it was for European people trying to whiten and lighten their skin, because it for them was associated with the genteelness of everything. Right? I went down a rabbit hole with another sister, shout out to Sister Mayana, many years ago, and it was about the cult of domesticity, right? This cult of womanhood that came at the turn of the century, where it was, again, if you worked, then you were lowly on the ladder, right? But if you were pristine and a cultured woman and your skin looked like porcelain, then you know what I mean? You were higher up on the rung. So it wasn't even just people of color. It was also European women using these skin bleaching mechanisms to lighten their skin. Let me see if I could find that. I had downloaded a old time Gleaner article that indicated that they was into that stuff. For those who just joined us, welcome to the conversation. Welcome to the conversation. If you want to come up and share your thoughts, feel free to do so. This skin bleaching thing is an epidemic. It is all over the world, and especially on the continent. And we know that it causes all type of ailments. It causes skin cancer. It causes all type of ailments, but people seem to still do it because of the perceived benefits. Let me see what else. Kitty says it's also normal for people to trust those who look like them. Yeah, we definitely have to do better. And I think it starts with consciousness, being aware, having a conversation. Yeah, China, definitely. China and other Asian countries, they'll tell you straight out. They tell them oh, you're too dark. Oh, no, you're too fat. Oh, no, your nose is too big. Oh, no. Like, they be going in. Like, if you didn't have low self-esteem, you about to get some. You know what I mean? And you're never going to get married. Because I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Marcy says it seemed that Bob felt deeply inspired and validated by his reading of scripture and his belief that his God incarnate was a black man. I think he really identified with that. I would say so. I think, again, his situation goes beyond colorism. It's really this polarity of existence, the European father and him being the actual colonizer. It wasn't like a distant ancestor. It was like literally his father, and then his very melanated, richly, cultured mother. So it's literally the colonizer and the colonized coming together and producing this man, right? At a time where, so in the beginning, we do see him gravitating towards what fed him, what reared him, what birthed him, which was this culture of the melanated people around about the place. Mindspot says skin bleaching is so prominent in our community and so sad to see young people unable to love their dark, beautiful skin. And again, if you read or you listen to some of what they're saying, they say they think they look better. They say they think they're going to be able to get a job. They say that if it's a man, that the women are going to want them. So basically, it's about acceptance and social status. So social economic status. These are the factors that promote that make people want to do these things. How is society going to perceive them? Welcome to the conversation for those who just joined us. And it's really about loving the skin that you're in. Chief says he loves being a milk chai latte brother. It's about love, whatever you are, however, because we didn't determine, we wasn't in the womb like, yes, when we come out, this is the color when we want. It's like you weren't in the womb ordering, your how you were gonna appear to the world. We don't get to predetermine that. You understand what I'm saying? So I think it's interesting that people are judging you on what you didn't even have a choice with. And I think skin bleaching is kind of the taking control of the narrative for yourself. But there's also the opposite to skin bleaching, which is like what was brought up in the videos, tanning. And tanning is not frowned on as much as skin bleaching, which is curious. They're both doing the same thing, augmenting your appearance. Right? And so now, because porcelain skin is no longer in, right? Tanning is a huge industry. Let me see how much money tanning makes. Tanning industry. Let me see here. You have tanning locations. No. Skin tanning. Hold on. I just like to look up interesting stuff. But because it's on the other side, the global industry of skin tanning is $1.5 billion in 2022. So the converse is not demonized. Has anybody said, oh my goodness, where y'all do I tan your skin? You don't love yourself, you hate yourself. Right? But the converse at $1.5 billion in 2022 and is expected to grow 5.3% from 2023 to 2031. In the US alone, it's 2.5 billion by the end of 2031. Wait a minute, hold on. I have a question. This is how we know it's psychology. On one end, skin bleaching. Now let's look up skin bleaching. Oh, skin bleaching, why you wouldn't want to take off your skin? But on the other end, you're still exposing yourself sometimes to dangerous rays, but it doesn't carry the stigma as much as skin bleaching does. So what I'm getting from this is humanity is not satisfied with themselves. Okay. Conversely, skin bleaching is worth 8.6 billion. So the global skin lightening industry is estimated to be 8.6 billion in 2020. And even taking into account the pandemic, it's expected to be 12.3 billion in 2027. So one of them, the one to take away your melanin, is 8.6 billion, and the one to get some browning for brown up the chicken, right, is at 1.5 billion. So again, both of these industries are in the billions of dollars, but one is 8 times more popular because the majority of the people on the planet would be more melanated in some capacity than non-melanated, right? So I think it's relative to who is looking for these products. But make no mistake about it, both demographics are looking for these products. One is being demonized, and the other one, you look good. You look good. I'm just saying, right? I'll put the link in the box. What are we at? 53. I'm not going to stay long. This was just a quick open mic. It says here, yeah, don't forget to smash. Thank you, Fever. Don't forget to smash the like button. I need sleep and I do feel pain. Yeah, Thomas Jefferson. We can't find Thomas. Thomas was out. He was out. He was off the chain, man. Some of these books, when I was reading it, that's why I had to chill out. It was raising my blood pressure because I was like, people were really doing, like, the father of gynecology. Like, when you see him, oh, black women they can have high tolerances of pain. And this goes over into how you're treated when you have a care plan in the hospitals, because your pain is not as much as someone else's pain because of your skin color. So this colorism thing and racism thing is not just amongst ourselves. It also has a real world effect, even when you go into the medical spaces, right? When a melanated woman is in a hospital and saying that she's having this experience, your pain is not really, It's not really that much. Just relax. So all of this stuff is not coming from now, but it is something that has moved through the timeline. Jasmine said, I think that may be like Snoop's daughter and her brother. She said she had held some insecurities because their complexion and hair texture. Right, because it really depends on, it really depends on not only what happens in the home, but how the people outside perceive you. And yes, if you look at Serena Williams, you do see, but you also see how they used to speak about the sisters before when they're in their natural state, right? At what point do you allow other people's thoughts of you to affect you to this degree? It's important. Society trained us, the boys who is mixed and black and mixed, and called out Garvey in that way because he thought he was a step up from Garvey. Yeah, and we're going to definitely look into that because that was one of like, who does he think he is? You know what I mean? Who does he think he is? Because someone along the line told you that if you look a certain way, that meant that you were better than someone. Where are we getting this from? We know where we're getting it from. Monique says bleaching doesn't look good. I don't care what they say. You can tell, and you need your melanin, man. You need your melanin. This is the part. Like, even as I'm gonna dive off a little bit into vitamin D, right? I had done some studies into vitamin D, and they say if you look at the vitamin D that's needed for the European versus the vitamin D that's needed for the African American, because our body stores things differently, it's not the same across the board. So we don't store, according to what I've researched, long stores of vitamin D because we're equatorial people. Those who have just joined us, welcome to the conversation. And because we're equatorial people, then we have full exposure to the sun. And oftentimes when we, the people, go into areas like Canada or areas like Europe where the sun doesn't shine, they're not doing the bob. Sun is shining, the weather is... No, the sun is not shining. So for long periods of time, we do not get the exposure to the sun that we need to shore up our vitamin D. And then that has all type of adverse effects. You understand what I'm saying? So even the location that we are, people are running from what you need for your body to operate optimally. Everybody, even though we on the inside, we are the same. Everybody doesn't need, it's like plants. Different plants need different things. You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't make one plant better, one plant worse. It just means that different plants need different things. Mary said back in the day, white women would be careful to stay out the sun and stay under a parasol to avoid a tan. Correct, because it was perceived that. And even not only just there, when I went overseas, I remember Ethiopia, a lot of people walking around with the sun parasol. So that, oh no, don't let the sun hit you. Don't da 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 da. It could. I'm like, what in the world is wrong with y'all? Y'all don't want no sun. So it's not just one set of people who seem to have issues with themselves. It's across the board. But today we're talking about colorism, and so that is that. Huh? Oh, you're talking about City. Sedella was like 16 when she got pregnant for the 40-year-old. No, he wasn't 40. Y'all, how old was Norval again? 50, how old was Norval? 58, 59? He was up there. I forgot right now, but I have a video about how old Norval was. It is said that history wasn't the original. There's nothing more beautiful than a deeply melanated brother with white teeth. Everybody comes how everybody come, Everybody comes, we come how we come. And my own issue is when we look at one another and say, you worse because you this and you better because you're that. Something very superficial. I recently came across, what's up, Devon? I recently came across an old Air Jamaica ad in the paper where they were looking for a stewardess in the 70s. You hear this now? The criteria in the ad requires someone with fair complexion. Whoa. Imagine you say you go for one little job, and when you reach, them a talk about if your fear complex. Huh? Skin bleaching is global. That is the point of this conversation, indeed. Skin bleaching is global. He said it was an Air Jamaica ad. Yeah, there is a book called Bluest Eyes, and yeah, that Tori Morrison book, looking at, yeah, I think it's over. I think it's over there somewhere. Care plan means we don't care. I'm telling you, there are a lot of people who say they don't even go by the care plan. When you go into these places, there's already assumptions made of you before you even open your mouth. And if you don't advocate for yourself, then people run roughshod over you. You understand what I'm saying? Because there's all of these preconceived notions. Oh, maybe you don't have insurance, or maybe you're this, or maybe you're that, right? And so we have to find space to advocate for ourselves and for our people respectfully. Tasha says you had to be light skinned back then to get a job as an air hostess. So again, now we can see how the next generation, if this is what the prior generations experience, is not out of the realm of possibility that the present generation is saying, okay, they're going to do something about it, right? They're going to do something about it. And this doing is bleaching, or this doing is altering their appearance. So with that said, let me see. Yes, I think failure of doctors to check vitamin D levels is a civil rights issue. Yeah, you need vitamin D, but the way in which each ethnicity metabolizes it, even from the sun, is different. And because we don't have long stores of it, because of where our genome is made to say that you're going to get sun tomorrow, so you don't got to store it that long. You know what I'm saying? But when you live in a place that you don't get sun and you're inside under fluorescent lights all day long, look it up, vitamin D deficiency in African American people, right? And you will see, you will see what I'm talking about. We don't belong in cold climates. No, we don't. We don't. It's true. We're sorry for saying, but it's true, because that's not how the body is built. Let's see. But here we are having a conversation, even though it may be superficial and childish. It was throughout the text that we read, throughout the entire story. Colorism is kind of like in the background, like flowing with the conversation. You know what I mean? So it's not outside of the realm of what needs to be talked about, so that we don't pretend that it's not there. Funny, I led a librarian book discussion tonight. Woohoo! Book discussion. We discussed The Bluest Eyes by Toni Morrison. The pain of self-hatred, especially colorism, runs deep. That's why we're having this little chat real quick, right quick. Love yourself, because you only get you. You only get your one self. So why waste the whole of your time trying to be someone else when you're only you? Even if you change, you still you. Because some people do all of those things and they still don't see what other people see. They still see who you were, right? So you only get one you. Don't waste your time trying to be somebody else. I would tell young children, embrace yourself. Love yourself. And adults have to tell children, oh, you look beautiful today. Give the child a compliment. Because if you don't hear it, how then can they internalize it? The people around and the community around is the one who helps to build the self-esteem of that child. Oh, you look nice today. Oh, say things that is going to make the child feel like, yes, they are beautiful. But if you don't do those things as parents, as teachers, as elders, and then you expect the child to just magically be like, yes, I love myself, it don't work like that. True, how people say they love God, yet they don't love the way that they were made. Yeah, well, that's where we are today, because humanity is an interesting species. Humanity is I think Norva was 59, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you, Lenza. Welcome, Dr. Charles, to the conversation.
Hi, good evening. How is everybody? How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. I'm so glad we're talking about this subject. I mean, this is something that probably we can talk about for a very long time because there's so much information, right? And it continues. It started long ago and still continues in our communities today. So
Right.
I was wanting to share a little bit about my experience with colorism. I didn't really have an issue or really knew about it until I went to college because growing up in a West Indian household, I did have my father's African American from Louisiana, so I decided to go to college there. And boy, I had no idea of
Mm,
in Louisiana the colorism that exists. And you were going to talk about the brown paper bag,
hmm.
experiment. But I had roommates. There were three of us, and two of us were dark skinned, and one was what they call Creole.
Creole, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All three of us, very rich in our cultures, but she really had a superior attitude.
Mm,
Her skin was very light. Almost she would be what you would call someone who could pass.
fast for white. Yep.
Yeah, pass for white. Oh, and then when we got a new roommate, she was also very pale skin, but her hair was African.
Mm,
C4, really nice, thick, like afro. And I remember the one with the straight hair used to tell us that the one with the nappy hair, the kinky hair, was light skin gone to waste. Yeah. Yes, my dear. Unbelievable, right? Light skin gone to waste. I will never forget that term.
wow.
But
I ain't
yeah,
never heard that before.
right, right, right.
Wow.
Yes, yes. All that light skin and your hair is nappy, like as though that was an insult. But I learned a lot about the history and the French in Louisiana and how there's a hierarchy,
Mm-hmm.
um, which drove me to go watch this movie called Feast of All Saints. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I know
You
we
have
have
the
to,
book.
about to pull it off the thing right here. I
Oh
was just about to
my
say it.
It's so deeply rooted in the South. Yes, yes. Oh my
This
God.
this DVD right here.
We should have a watch night,
Look, this
movie night. We should
what
all
you
see
talking about is deep. What you talking about?
Right,
Yes, it is.
exactly. Exactly. So me coming from a culture that's very rich in their Africanism, my mother's side of the family, they were born where, the president is black, the people on the money is black, everybody
Right,
is, so
right,
there's this pride um that they had and they instilled in us. And I think that's what my father really loved about my mother, because there was no light skin, dark skin, superior,
correct.
anything like that in our household. I didn't experience it until I actually went to the South and visited, you know, my family from there, his family, where the
Right.
colorism runs very deep, very
Mhm.
deep. But it was a lesson. It was a lesson. So, and I don't know, isn't WDEB Du Bois, isn't he biracial?
Yes, he
Or
is. I was trying to look for the response that Garvey gave to him, because Garvey kind of touched on it by saying he's a little bit of this, he a little bit of that. And so because of that, he felt as though he was in a better position to be over him, right? But Garvey was coming from like, nah, that don't work from where I'm from. You know what I mean?
exactly. But if I'm not mistaken, sorry to interrupt. If
No,
I'm
go
not,
ahead.
weren't they both West Indian or
Was
West Indian
WEB Du
heritage?
Bois? Oh, that's a
I
good question.
believe. I believe he was from Haiti or had relatives from Haiti. I think there is, yeah. I believe that he does have West Indian heritage.
They
But
say he was born in Massachusetts.
his parents.
I'm gonna check
Is
it
he of
out.
Haitian descent? But I read that one.
I might. We're gonna have to come back on that one to to,
Yes.
to double check on that one, because
Right.
the whole is interesting that you mentioned New Orleans, because that whole Haitian migration that happens after the French, when the French is still ruling, Louisiana and these places, the people who had money, the people who had riches, they migrated from Haiti to Louisiana,
Hmm.
right? Because the French had more laxed laws of miscegenation than did the British. So
Right.
that's kind of why you see a lot of that whole caste system there, very out in the open, let's say, about what they were doing, as opposed to the British, who were hiding it. And despite, they call them left, what do they call them, left hand wives. There was the official
Wow.
wife, and then the wife, that the Creole wife, or the one that they would have on the side, and they called them left hand wives, if I remember correctly. I'm going in my memory bank here. And so they're curious down there,
Hmm.
with the history, you know.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. And they now this was when I was in school, this was in the 80s in college, but it still existed where they would actually find mates that were either their complexion or lighter to keep that same skin tone in the
Mm,
family. It was very deep rooted, and actually they would not date anyone darker for fear
mm.
that their children, their offspring will, yeah, because they felt like they had better opportunities in life with the lighter skin.
And so was that perceived benefit, or was it an actual benefit, right?
I actually, yeah, yeah. Well, I actually did see. I don't know if it's because she was light skinned or that she was just super beautiful, but she had a lot of advantages that the rest of the roommates did not have. Like, for
Mm,
instance, if we wanted to go into certain places, she would be the one to be at the door to talk to whoever was there. We didn't have reservations, and we would just she just used her beauty like that. God rest her soul.
wow.
She passed away. But I did see her having some advantages with professors.
Mm,
Oh yes, oh yeah. It was very, and it could be, it was a black school, so it could be that they also had their issues with colorism. But I did see some advantages in that. I did see for her.
right.
It was very interesting. It was very interesting.
As all of
And
this
this
is.
wasn't a long time ago. So
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's not that long ago, and it is
right.
even on to today. So that's kind of
Hmm.
why we're having. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences.
Yes.
Um,
No.
because this also goes to why people end up having to go to therapy, right? It's an
Oh.
extension of how they see themselves, how they interface with the world, how
Mhm.
open or closed they are, right?
Mhm.
How, again, self-esteem, whether or not you develop depression or anxiety, and all of these things, because you fear not being accepted for, you know what I mean, all of this kind of plays into it. Like, the moment I show up, I'm not accepted. How else is that going to affect the person? You know what I mean? When we are social beings. So this is a very important topic, as it's talking about the health of the individual. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, when you say that, you mean the mental health?
Yes, the mental health aspect.
Unfortunately, a lot of us who don't get help for that pass those traits along to their children, and it becomes generational.
Hmm.
But I do believe that mental health is necessary if you are having issues with your self-esteem because of feeling inferior, or feeling that your skin color is the reason why you're not valued. you know
Mm,
yeah, mental health can go a certain, can help. But in addition to that, you have to have some kind of cultural pride, and that has to come from uh you know your people, maybe your relatives are not the ideal, because they may have you may be carrying traits from them. But outside, look at leaders, look at different people in your community. Being around people like that also helps, because I can sit with you, and we can talk and have therapy. But if you do not see an example, I
right.
always tell you, you're this and you're that, and you should. But if you don't see it, if you don't see any examples outside of that, then it's futile. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
Uh,
If it's not reinforced outside of you, and actually something that you want to belong to as well, because some of it goes the opposite, where people don't value their culture, they don't want to be that, and so therefore they want to gravitate towards the people group that they feel have the better advantages. So maybe they lose their accent, or they'll begin to alter themselves so that they can fit in amongst. You know what I mean? It can also work in the reverse. If you don't, if you don't value your culture, you don't value where you're coming from. You may see it as
Mm-hmm.
too
That's
harsh, too
the point.
lonely, or too rough, or whatever the case may be.
True. That's an interesting point because I see that there, and just to take it a little further, between African Americans and people from Africa, that the conflict in between the two. You know
Hmm.
what Africans, where they come from. Um, they already have that racial pride. They already have that. Uh, je ne sais quoi. What is it that they have that's developed in them from children? When they come to America, they see white people as an economic something that they can use or mimic in order to be successful.
Right.
It, they're trying, and our struggle is different than theirs.
True.
So conflict comes in is like, you listen, I'm not trying to, you know what is the assimilate. I am not trying to be like the Black American, because of course abroad a lot of things that the stereotypes are, publicized, you know and so they're feeling like, a lot of times, the stereotypes that are here in America, the just the negativity. um People from other countries, black countries, Africa, what they don't want to be that, and they feel that that's what African Americans are. You know, so a lot of times come here, they look at that and not really want to be a part of the group for fear of being identified with those negative stereotypes.
And
Not
that's true. I
right?
mean, there's a lot there. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's not a dislike or a hatred between the two, and this probably is going past colorism, but
Right.
yeah, just the point of the unity is not there because they don't see white people as I want to be white. It's what I want, what whites have in this country. I want to be successful. I want to. So they emulate, the private schools and the whole. I wouldn't say the culture, but what they see as positive, where they can gain economically, they will gravitate towards and not really want to gravitate towards the Black struggle. My experience.
No, and that's a conversation that has been had. I've seen that conversation had, especially when there was a talk about reparations a few years ago, and whether or not reparations was going to be something that was going to come into fruition, and that separation of, you may look like you're African American, and even they were doing it to the Caribbean people as well.
Oh yeah,
So yeah, that was happening there, because the same thing that we're talking about African American and African, mainland African, the same thing can be said about, Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. you know,
right.
that stigma. And I didn't, like I said before, I didn't know there was a stigma on Jamaica until I went to university. And then I was like, oh, what I mean? I didn't know that the way other Caribbean countries, not all but some, look at Jamaica, and it's a bit of, in my experience, a bit of, if you say you're Jamaican or mischaracterize them as Jamaican, it's like, why everybody has to be Jamaican, or Jamaicans are so, and then fill in the blank. You understand what I'm saying? So it happens all over. It can even happen within the country, from people country and people from town. You know what I mean? Anything that's going to be a point of difference, people going to use it as a power, a means to gain power and control over the other person. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I see it. You know what I mean? All of this goes into, how can I maintain power or manipulate the other person so that I feel, not me, but the person feels like they're the one who's at the advantage. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, yes,
Yeah. And
yes.
any tool can be used.
Right, right. But what I think the point that I when I started talking, and the points that I lost was I believe that West Indians and Africans or Africans from different parts of the world that come to America, it's not. I don't think it's so much colorism as it is economics, wanting
Right.
to identify with the culture where they can actually get become successful or feel that they need to uh, maybe marry or intermingle or whatever with
Right, economic advancement. But I mean,
that.
that's the same thing that happened when Caribbean people first came here. It was for the same thing. It was for economic advancement. And then after a while, they kind of get assimilated. But some assimilated, some acculturated. But that it was the same reason. You're leaving not because you didn't have a place, but because you thought that this place was going to provide certain things that back home didn't. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? So it's kind of the same thing.
It is, because when you think about it, how beautiful that island, well, I'm talking about Jamaica, how beautiful that place is. Who the heck would want to leave there, if you can live good and be,
Right, right,
I mean, I wouldn't.
right. Right.
But yeah,
There
that's
is a thank you so much for that.
of
There is a
course.
line in I don't know how many people watched Oliver back in the day, Oliver Samuels, when he was trying to come to America. Um and then the guy at the airport is like, why would you want to leave your beautiful country of wood, water, and sunshine for go live in an ice box? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
He's like, what is wrong with you? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's kind of the sentiment, and it's usually economically. The other day, I
exactly.
saw a man on YouTube, and he's like, no work is in Jamaica, and he
Mm.
went to go live in Grand Cayman.
Oh yes, and that's a
So
whole different story. How can
that's
you
a whole
create
right. There's
they look
people
at you?
going to other islands if they can't
Yeah,
come here, they may go to other islands.
that's
You
true.
know,
That's true.
so
True. Yeah, it's all about, economics, a lot of times, and not colorism, you
right,
know, but just identifying with where they feel, the power is, you
right,
know.
and
So,
I right, basically. So thank you so much for
oh,
that.
my pleasure. I always love calling in and talking to you.
Thank you, thank you,
Of
thank
course.
you.
Of course. Have
Have
a
a
good
blessed night.
day. Okay.
So with that said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I think I'm gonna come back next time and do the brown paper bag situation. I kind of just wanted to touch on it and give everybody an opportunity to share their thoughts. I see here, Cinti, Cintisha, a Nigerian sister made a beautiful YouTube explaining when the light went off, and she realized that she was black in America. No, exactly. You don't. They don't know what you sound. They don't know who you are till you open your mouth. So you understand what I'm saying? T Go says this Bayesian man was telling me he doesn't date dark skinned women and he usually get along with fair skinned women. That's to me that I mean everybody have their mentality, but to me it don't make no sense. Who is the person? Who is the heart of the person? Who is the individual that are they good or bad just because they appear in a certain form? To me, that don't make no sense. But I guess to each his own, eh? While we're having this conversation. Anywho, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. You guys leave your comments and your thoughts in the description below. We have one more comment on another note. They need to give Bob Marley his things. He should get national hero. You think Bob Marley should get national hero? Uh-oh, Monique. He put Jamaicans on the map. Um, how many people think that Bob Marley should get national hero? Is it because he brought this is what I'm saying. Is it Bob Marley without the Jamaica music scene, without Bob Marley nursing at the breast, proverbially, of the deeply African culture in Jamaica, would he have become who he was? And if he was anybody else, since we're talking about colorism, would he have been able to go into the places and do the things that he did? You understand me? I say so. Is he getting? It was Jamaica a thing already? Because if you look at the history of Jamaica, Jamaica was already a crown in the Caribbean from jump, from say go. You understand me? I say so. eh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, Garvey Countered. Okay, thank you so much, Idris. Garvey countered by calling the boys the Negro misleader and said the boys was, there it is, a little Dutch, a little French, a little Negro, a mulatto. Why, in fact, Garvey wrote he is a monstrosity. That is exactly what it is said. I'm trying to look at, they said it was in a speech. I was looking for the original source of it, but that was the back and forth, the cuss, as you will, between Garvey and W.E. Du Bois. They had different ideas of how to get to where they were going, and that's usually with any movement, any people. Malcolm had different ideas than Marcus did. You know what I mean? People have different ideas of how they're going to get to where they're going based on their perspective. So with that said, thank you so much for sharing yours. I hope this conversation was able to shed some light on an important topic, something that we just need to be mindful of as we go and as we come, as we have conversations. And if somebody has a different viewpoint from us, it may just be because they're at a different point on the circle. And it doesn't mean that their experience is invalidated because we don't see it that way. It just means that they had a different experience. Right? So Devin says, not sure what the full criteria is for national hero. Right. What is the full criteria for national hero? That's a good one. That's a good one. What is the criteria? Is it because putting Jamaica on the map, or what exactly is it? That's a good one. But with that said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. You have a blessed day. I'm going to keep the readings coming, and then soon and very soon, we're going into Garvey. All right. So with that said, everybody have a good night. I don't know me, I forgot to commercial. I'm big up everybody who's been tuning in to Island Twist. In Island Twist, there are some things that I want to be able to talk about. And someone asked me to talk about Jamaican taboos. So I think I want to come back and talk about that as well, or Caribbean taboos, because that was explored in the transition of from a young girl to womanhood, right? And how oftentimes that journey, that passage is not supported. Like one day you was a little girl and no, you think you're a big man. Like how Norva was asking, your flow yet. It's not really, you're not really prepared. And even in City's situation, there was a lot of fear surrounding, her pregnancy and what to expect, because oftentimes that transition, like I said, is not one that makes you feel like you're prepared. Like in certain other cultures, you have a coming of age ceremony, right? Something that marks your transition from this stage to that stage. But, what? We had some talk that, where did I read that at? If a woman back in the day didn't have a child before, I think Aretha said it, before 19 or 20, then you'll be considered a mule. Like, is that the rite of passage? You know what I mean? And is this something that we can concentrate on so that we know for the next generation, you address it in a better way so that they can be prepared for what is to come? Everybody have everybody's skin color has value. That's what I want to leave us with tonight. Everybody has value because the Most High made us in all different hues. You know what I mean? He made us with all different hues. Mankind did some extra other stuff, but we span the rainbow. Not the rainbow, but you know what I mean? He made us in all different hues. So with that said, love yourself, love one another, and get some rest, everybody. All right? One.